We're gonna start here and go there. So when I pass you, come here, start over here. And just kind of follow me. So we're gonna go over here, you're gonna follow me, we're gonna be talking, and then I'm gonna basically be talking here. What's wrong with you?
Because I'm already recording.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know you were recording anyways. Get over here. Yeah. He's an idiot.
I'm already recording.
Anyways, guys, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and again, thanks for Reggie completely screwing up this video. But anyways, welcome to Exotic Car Hacks, and today we're going to be looking at a specific show that just came out literally on TV. So it was first on Discovery Plus, now it's finally been featured on TNT. We're going to be talking about $1 Million Wheels. Now, I particularly like shows on TV that are about cars, car dealers, especially in the exotic market, because of two key reasons. One, I was on my own Netflix show called Fastest Car, season 2, episode 1. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you look at that. Two, because obviously I'm in not only the business of exotic cars, but in my own personal warehouse here, where these personally titled exotics belong to me. And the best part about it is that I have an intricate knowledge of the exotic car world. So when my fans ask me, what do you think about the show? Do you think we should go ahead and take in what they're saying as realistic or not? I decided, you know what, maybe now that it's on TNT, I should actually watch it for a quick second and check if it's actually good or not, right? And so I did watch it, and I had a couple of interesting takeaways from it. So first off, the show, for those of you that haven't watched it, I'm not gonna spoil it, features wires only. RJ from Florida dude, went to California and basically became like little dealerships selling specialized secondary hand like exotics, like newer stuff that's more exciting, etc. He has a lot of talent when it comes to picking good specs. Now, I'm not necessarily a big fan of the way LA people customize their cars, but nonetheless, I still think that the way he picks his specs are pretty decent. Now, that said, the show features him as a dealer, secondary dealer that's opening his new showroom, followed by 2 other brokers. One chick that basically is very entry level, you can tell based on the way she's doing her stuff, and then another rich trust fund kid who basically has no idea what's going on and somehow is getting some fame from this. So it's a very interesting dynamic of a show, and I can tell you from the perspective of someone who had been on several shows on TV, regardless of it's TV or Netflix, that there's a lot of crafting to this series, meaning it is far from a reality show. It is far from candidly catching what's going on in the industry, and it is a carefully scripted kind of show showcasing the lives with some level of exaggeration of these characters that run throughout. So let me break down what I mean by that. As an example, there's a scene in there where the second gentleman, I don't know what his name is, supposedly gets a client, and this client wants him to sell his Rolls-Royce Phantom. The car's not worth a penny over $550. He convincingly tries to sell him at $570, and the guy says, I'm not taking less than $680. Supposedly, or $690 or whatever. And supposedly, they get a client during the show that basically wants to buy the car at $680. And they finally do a deal. Well, the car is still listed on his site for $630 and not selling because the car is really not worth over $550. So this is a good example of how a deal isn't really happening, but this portrayal basically gives additional credit to that person, making them look like they got the impossible because they had clients. Secondly, there's a lot of misinformation in the show about margins, how much money is made, or pricing that doesn't really make sense. There's a point where RJ delivers a Cullinan saying it's $600 to Travis Baker, but really the cost basis of that car and the way it's customized and everything wouldn't add up to why the hell are you even doing work. So that's section 2. Section 3 is you can clearly see some inconsistencies in the backstories created by these individuals, in addition to something very interesting, which is that we kind of suspected all along that Wires Only was basically floor planned by celebrities, and I would probably make this assumption, but with a lot of certainty, that Jamie Foxx is probably an investor in Wires Only, so that's where they're getting a lot of their inventory and their cash flow to buy stuff, and that is primarily driven by the fact that, again, you can see the constant presence and you can see the way the information is being delivered to the show. So we had this kind of thought before, but now through the show, I'm kind of even more certain of it than before. So is that a big deal? Not really. But it showcases like a really interesting side of the business, which is true across the US, which is interesting. It's not just these guys. That a lot of guys selling cars don't actually know the cars they're selling. There's even a segment in there when he literally walks to an AMG GT Black Series in citrus orange and looks at it and tells Travis Baker, this is an AMG GTR. It's not. So that's, again, you know, just showing that, you know, either it's nervousness for the camera or it's a misunderstanding about what the car is or how it works. But I think the idea of is that these guys often don't really know cars that well because they don't own a ton of cars themselves. They're basically buying them to resell. So just like most dealers, they're looking at the dollar in, dollar out, not really understanding the options or anything other than how hard it is to get on the street that day. It was good to see in the show that Vic from RDB LA was getting some street cred. I think they're an incredible shop in LA, so I think that's like fantastic that they were featured in there, showing the kind of work they do. They do good work in general. Now, I don't necessarily love all the style of stuff they do, but I really love their YouTube channel. I think they do a really good job generally in that area and just being known for what they do. And I think they're just fantastic. So I'm glad that they at least are getting some kind of credit and people will know more about their work in the mainstream media. And I'll help. He's just a really humble guy, and I like kind of his style and way of doing it. But I think one of the premises of the show, or one of the issues why the show I don't think will make it ultimately, is because one, it's too orchestrated. So you know that 90% of it is bullshit. And the second part is that these types of shows typically appeal to people who don't understand the markets, don't understand these cars, don't understand how they work. And so it's appealing to a generic audience, you know, a generic audience saying, oh my God, you have an expensive Ferrari. I have no idea what this is, and I have no idea how this car differs from one without the Fiorina package, this and that. I just think it's cool, man. Wow, you have an Aventador. I had no idea this was an Ultimate Aventador. I had no idea the pinstripes were painted and this was one of 350. Like, these are the things they don't typically understand. And then the other part you kind of see, and you're going to see this over and over and over happen, is that a lot of this orchestration comes from the fact that the parties involved don't usually have the funds to basically buy their own cars. So they're basically, for the most part, using inventory or floor plan to basically buy stuff and play with it and drive it places because they understand it enough to know what they can add in miles and so on and so forth. So personally for me, the show was a terrible show. I thought it just didn't do well at all, in the sense of like how engaging it had to be, how exciting it had to be, and some of the things that could have been really good opportunities to really give a good glimpse of the industry. And I thought the chick, I don't remember her name, I think it was Melissa or something, I think she did the most organic and real kind of ideology behind how she was presenting her business. She wasn't presenting it as this glamour, fake, all rich crap, right? I mean, she was driving at the best like a $90,000 car. She was hopeful she could make $1 million a year as a broker. It's hopeful for the type of deal she was doing, but it's possible, just completely unlikely. So, you know, like it's very different. And having been in the car industry for 20 years, having floor planned like a dozen plus dealers, currently holding an investment portfolio in dealerships, including my own specific cars, all titled under me, you know, I have an intricate knowledge of like the industry as a whole and how they work. And I think one of the key reasons the show was so orchestrated, and one of the reasons it worked for the way they basically set it up, is they used a lot of independents. They didn't really use a lot of major dealers or major players. I think they were trying to do basically selling sunset, or, you know, kind of one of these real estate shows with cars. The real problem with it is those guys are authentically doing really well, like the Altman brothers and all of these guys on their shows, $1 million listings, are actually really good at their job. And so in this particular segment, you just saw something that was more about how to pretend that we're doing big business when we're really just doing average business. And so it didn't really work for me. You let me know your thoughts on the show. Put it in the comments below. Write it up. Let me know what you think. And of course, like the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time for Exotic Car Hacks.